a lot of different countries, but among all the countries I've been to, Japan is the only one notorious for its unhealthy work customs. So if somebody gets married, they might transfer that person to a different town in an attempt to disrupt the, like on the subway. I mean, I just see rows of really unhappy people, and I don't get that vibe anywhere else. Like, worse, we have it's very well known that the Japanese are extremely xenophobic, and he had a laugh because one of his students' parents.
Konnichiwa minasan, Kyo desu. Today, we will be looking at the YouTube channel Cyrus the Explorer. And in this video, he talks about the dark side of Japan, a negative side to Japanese culture. That's the video we're gonna react to today, but before that, guys, just make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel.
So here we are, this is my last day in Japan after 6 weeks. Just went by like that, and I'm on the way to Vietnam. And in this video, I wanna talk about something that maybe is a bit controversial, but it involves what is basically the dark side of Japan. And I think many people who choose to live here come to this realization because I've now interviewed a bunch of different expats, and they kind of come to the same conclusions. And
okay,
I've also talked to quite a few locals who address these same issues with me. So it's kind of funny, like I was at a hotel in Nara, and the lady working at the front counter, I told her, yeah, Nara is so beautiful, your culture is very beautiful. And her response to me was like, oh yes, I agree, my culture is very beautiful, but it has a dark side. So she had to throw in a little caveat just to correct me. And so I thought that was kind of telling. So in essence, I've been to a lot of different countries, but among all the countries I've been to, Japan is the only one that I've kind of felt this profound sense of loneliness, and that is despite the fact that it's a very sophisticated, I would say above first world level. I mean, it's way nicer than the United States. Everything is just basically honed to perfection in Japan. You can see this everywhere you go. I sometimes joke, even if you buy like the egg salad sandwich from 7-Eleven, it's way nicer here in Japan than it is probably anywhere else.
I agree.
Because everything is perfected. Now, that being said, Japan is notorious for its unhealthy work customs, and this is the source, I think, of most of the problems. So Japanese men, well, I suppose women too, but predominantly we call them salary men, are expected to put in so many hours into their company that nothing else in their lives matter. That includes their families, that includes their social lives, their hobbies. Everything has to revolve around the company, and that's a big problem because it really damages the moral fabric of a country when literally your company is trying to keep you away from your family so you can clock more hours in. And we're talking like 16-hour days being quite standard for a lot of businessmen out here. Now, you can research this subject, and it goes deeper, and it gets scarier. So what I've learned is that when you join a big company in Japan, the company will, first of all, they'll invade your privacy by conducting medical checks on you periodically. So if there's an employee who's a little bit healthier than you are, that employee is going to get the benefits while they attempt to weed you out, thinking that if you're less healthy than somebody else, you're going to live not quite as long as that person, which means that's fewer hours that you'll be able to contribute to the company. So that's kind of how that reasoning goes. But the second thing they do that's very invasive, and this is something I've researched. So I don't know. You may want to look up these stats yourself, but apparently, now I think this is a big controversy. Companies, when they see that there's things happening in an employee's personal life that could interfere with their abilities to work, they will purposefully sabotage that person's life. So if somebody gets married, they might transfer that person to a different town in an attempt to disrupt the marriage, disrupt the family, so that they stay committed to the company instead.
Wow.
So this, to me, seems to be in stark contrast to the rest of Asia, where the family is given #1 importance. So this could explain why we see articles like, why is Japan the loneliest country in Asia? Why is there an epidemic of elderly people dying alone? Also, why is the birth rate so low? Why is there a severe lack of romantic relationships in Japan? So it seems like a big part of that has to do with companies attempting to own the souls of their workers. Now, I feel like I can see this when I'm out and about, like on the subway. I mean, I just see rows of really unhappy people, and you know, I don't get that vibe anywhere else. Like the USA is also kind of a work-based culture.
Yeah.
It's one of my criticisms about it. But even in the USA, like if I'm on the metro and the train in Los Angeles, yeah, there's like a bunch of people who are, you know, really, they look super sketchy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have people listening to music, you have people talking to each other, you have people sitting next to each other who don't know each other, striking up a conversation. And that's, you know, that's kind of nice. People just trying to get by get through the workday. But when I'm here in Osaka, when I'm on the subway, it's like everybody just keeps their heads down, and everyone has like this kind of quiet desperation going on.
Yeah.
So among all of the countries that I visit, that I go to in Asia, this is the only one I've experienced like that. So I find that pretty telling. Like honestly, I can go to Singapore, go to Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, any of these other countries I've been to many times, and it's the opposite. So everyone is like interactive, and you know, people's like work lives are really balanced. And you know, some of these countries, people don't make very much money. You know, I think significantly less by comparison to here, but still, they have. If you want to like quantify happiness, their happiness index is way higher. So, so almost like the moral of the story to me is that you can have a country that's quote perfect and has everything very, very well polished, but if there's a problem that's kind of in its soul, then it's going to mess everything up. I'm sorry. So a couple other points I want to think about. I think that we see this kind of culture. I would say it's very classist, and to some extent sexist, because I know women have a really difficult time here. It's like kind of like Japan.
I've heard that as well.
Is a real patriarchy. You know, I hear feminists say that USA is a patriarchy, which I don't believe, because if you go to a place like Japan, you can see, okay, or of course even worse, like somewhere like Saudi Arabia, but you can kind of get an idea of like when there really is this sense that women's place needs to be dressing pretty and being pretty to look at. And a couple other points though is that, you know, so why is the culture like that? Why does it have such an unhealthy work culture? And look, I mean, this culture, it's thousands of years old. And another thing about Japan that might turn people off is just the fact that it's so monocultural. Okay, so any other country I go to, like there's some awareness of the global culture, right? English is a big part of that. So in any Southeast Asian, any other Asian country, you'll see a lot more English being used because they know that it's the common language that people use between different countries. Here, even here in Osaka, you can go to the middle of the tourist area, and still like half the restaurants don't have signs in English. And to make matters worse, we have, it's very well known that the Japanese are extremely xenophobic. So they believe that their culture is superior to anybody else's culture. And there was a controversy for a while with restaurants and pubs and izakaya bars and spas, different establishments having signs up that would say no foreigners allowed. And I've read a couple stories on my Facebook wall of people, maybe 10 years ago coming to Japan and being told that like the restaurant is full when it's clearly not, because they don't like white people, they don't like foreigners. And of course that's really bad. I think most people wouldn't stand for that. And then I've spoken to people living out here who teach English. I know there's one gentleman from Saudi Arabia, a really nice guy, and he had a laugh because one of his students' parents calls him the equivalent of Mr. N-word, right? So the Japanese word is equivalent to the N-word, and he follows that by the suffix san. So it literally means, how are you doing, Mr. N-word. So horribly racist in the meaning. And he just thinks it's funny, but honestly, I think that if he was, for example, an African American, I don't think he would think that it was that funny. So again, it goes back to that sense of superiority. Well, this video, we're almost out of time because my camera's almost up. Look, I still love Japan a lot. It's really, really beautiful. It's magical. It's enchanting. But nobody is more aware, I think, of these problems than Japanese people themselves. And I really hope that it's something that people get a grip on.
So he made a lot of points. A lot of them I do feel is valid, but I'll break it down. As someone who's been into Japanese culture for over a decade, I've been to Japan twice. There's a lot of things that I have noticed myself. Also hearing opinions from other people who've been to Japan or from Japanese people themselves. For one, I do agree with that sense of loneliness that Japan does tend to give off. When I was in Japan, I did feel like even though Japan was a country of glitz and glamour and there's a lot of amazing things about Japan, I did feel a very strong sense of loneliness there. Even when I discussed it with some of my Japanese friends, they didn't quite understand, at least some of them did agree, but I did feel that when I was there, I can literally be here for all my life and not necessarily feel a sense of community or that people care about me. It was a very weird feeling that I'm trying to describe in words as much as I can, but I did sense that sense of loneliness. And that's another problem that we've talked about on this channel a lot, is the sense of lack of community and lack of families that's even affecting how immigration policies are displayed in Japan. Because now we know that because of the lack of Japanese families and children being born, Japan is now outsourcing a lot of foreigners to come to their country, which will change Japanese culture a lot. And I've heard of that and I've researched that as well, that, Japanese men and women, but men specifically, are slaves to their job. And he did claim that they actually sabotage your personal life. I don't know how true that is. You guys would let me know. But if it is, that's a huge problem, because now it's more so the company is more important than the families. And one thing that people need to understand is that families are the cornerstone of any society. You destroy the families, you destroy the country, you destroy the community. And the very fact that Japanese families are under attack right now because of either cultural rules or companies not caring about families, you're gonna see the ramifications of that affected in all areas of Japanese society. And my wish is that Japan in some way will feel more of a sense of community. People actually love each other, look out for each other. It's not more so just like, leave me alone, let me leave you alone so I don't bother you, but more so like you feel connected to a group of people that has your back and that they trust you and you trust them. As far as the xenophobic comments are concerned, I don't necessarily believe strongly that Japan is xenophobic. I think Japan is a very rare case of a country that's been isolated for so long. You have to approach Japan differently than you would any other country. In my experience, Japanese don't like when you come in demanding things or telling them that they're wrong or they're evil or anything like that. I think the best approach to approach Japanese people is to connect with them and try to understand how they think and gain their trust, that they know that you have their best interest. I think once you do that, you can address some problems that are negatively affecting Japan. For example, it's not that Japanese people dislike foreigners or foreign people. It's just that outside cultures are so different from how Japanese think that when foreigners come and they don't obey Japanese rules, it's very disheartening for Japanese, because Japan is a country that has a sense of order in things you do and things you don't do. So for example, if a foreigner comes to Japan, if they respect Japanese culture, they learn a little Japanese and they blend in, Japanese people would be okay with them. But if they're coming in acting like their own culture, they're not learning Japanese, they're causing a disturbance, or they're not, doing things that are culturally acceptable, many Japanese are going to be upset because there's a hidden understanding that most foreigners don't really understand how Japan works. So I would say it's more so if you don't approach them in a very sensitive way, they can get easily upset and not want to be around you. And again, it's like if any Japanese person came to America and started noticing a lot of problems with America, because I'm American, a lot of America has a lot of problems. And I do believe there's a lot of things that America should address, or else our country is going to be destroyed. I think it's the same in Japan. I think a lot of Japanese people know these problems. But I just think that your approach to addressing them really matters a lot, because Japanese don't like when you're too confrontational and more so like you're forcing them. More so we come to an understanding and we talk, we discuss, and let's see what things we can do to improve the lives of Japanese people. I think Japanese people appreciate that approach more than just coming in demanding things. But let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Hanto, arigatou gozaimasu. Mina, 気をつけて。じゃあね。